This is Chu. Tony Chu, not the other Chu. Tony is sibopathic, which means he gets psychic impressions from anything he eats. If he eats an apple, he can tell what tree it grew on or what pesticides were used on the crop. Or if he eats a piece of bacon, he sees a vegan's worst nightmare. Strangely enough, the only food that doesn't give Tony psychic impressions is beets. So he eats a lot of beets. He's also a cop. Tony and his partner, John Colby, are currently doing a stakeout, watching an abandoned restaurant that seems to be not so abandoned. It's actually an illegal business, selling black market chicken. What's so bad about selling chicken, you ask? Well, you see, there was a bird flu that caused many people to die. So the government banned chicken from being eaten or distributed to stop the spread. This sounds familiar. When did this book come out? 2009? Yo, these guys predicted COVID, just like The Simpsons predicted everything else. While they're watching the restaurant, they see a big gang leader named D-Bear go in. This is their moment. John and Tony suit up and get ready to arrest D-Bear. But out of nowhere, a large British man named Mason Savoy stops them. I'm assuming he's British. You know, he talks funny, he's fat. He's British if I want him to be. Savoy works for the FDA, which apparently is like the most powerful government agency in this cinematic universe. He tells them that D-Bear is currently working for the FDA in exchange for information, so they're not allowed to arrest him. Instead, he advises them to either complain to their boss, which won't change anything, or go in and enjoy a chicken dinner, all at the expense of the United States government. Chicken dinner? So they use the password that Savoy gives them, and they go in and enjoy some chicky nuggies. Tony takes one sip of his chicken soup and realizes there's a serial killer in the kitchen. Apparently, the chef cooking Tony's soup cut himself and bled into it. That's how Tony was able to know that he's a serial killer that's been kidnapping, killing, and eating people. So Tony and John storm into the kitchen. Police! Oh shoot, someone give my man an ice pack. Okay, never mind. There's no time. The guy's getting away. Freeze! You ain't taking me, cop. Gun in a knife fight, asshole. You lose. Now you're gonna tell me the name of every single one of your victims. I've got a few of them in my head already. The killer is confused on how Tony knows so much about him and his murder spree, so he decides to commit seppuku. But Tony still needs those names, so he takes a nice big bite out of the guy's face. Hooray! The day is saved. The families of the victims now have closure. But it turns out eating a criminal's face off doesn't give you a good rap at the police station. Instead of going to jail, though, Savoy shows up and hires Tony into the FDA. Yippee! Savoy also happens to be sibopathic just like Tony. Together, they can work for the FDA to solve food-related crimes. Stop the carrot! He's got a gun! Oh yeah, and John is stuck in the hospital now. Womp womp. This is Tony's new boss, Mr. Appleby, and he's a total poopy butthole jerk. He thinks Tony's a freak and constantly gives him a hard time about it. For instance, he gives Tony a dismembered finger to eat so that they can find out who it belongs to. It belongs to Evan Pepper, a health inspector that made a disturbing discovery and now is missing. But turns out Appleby already knew all that information. He had the fingerprints scanned. He really is a poopy butthole jerk. Also, his name is Appleby. Is everyone's name in this book just a joke? So Tony goes to the fast food joint where Evan Pepper's finger was found and finds a mysterious symbol in the back storage. The symbol leads them to a rundown sushi place that happened to be inspected by Evan Pepper in the past. The place is clearly just a front for Yakuza in the area. Yakuza! So Tony goes in and tries the good cop approach, and Savoy just beats the crap out of him. They arrest all the Yakuza, but they're nowhere closer to finding Evan Pepper, assuming he's dead. Meanwhile, a shady guy in an office full of frogs gets notified that his Yakuza force was taken out, and now he knows who Tony is. It's not looking good. How is it all related? I have no idea. Anyways, let's change things up. This is Amelia Mintz. She's a food critic that writes reviews for the paper, and is also a Sabo Scrivener, which means her writing is so good that people can actually taste the food that she's describing. But Amelia has been a little naughty lately. She's only been writing about horrible, gross stuff from bad rundown restaurants, causing everyone to just throw up, including Appleby. Appleby isn't very fond of Amelia's article, so he asked Tony to go find her and fire her, because the FDA is just God and can apparently do that for some reason. Well, that sucks, because Tony is in love with her. He saw her a couple times before, at the Yakuza place and the fast food place. They're meant to be. He can finally taste food normally because of her articles. Let's just say he doesn't want to fire her. Amelia, I love you. Will you go out with me? Of course. Yeah, that didn't happen. He can't even get a full sentence out in front of her. FDA? Huh? While Tony's trying to profess his love to Amelia, a terrorist group shows up and holds everyone hostage. They want their manifesto published in the newspaper. It's about how the government is keeping secrets and the bird flu is all a big lie. Big conspiracy stuff. Tony tries to help, but is surrounded. So instead, Amelia walks up, calm as ever, and yaps their ears off about disgusting food, which just makes everyone puke and wreck their bowels. Afterwards, Tony tries to find Amelia to thank her for saving him, but it's too late. She's already gone. The next investigation is with Savoy, trying to find out why the recently deceased politician David Hamantashen has a full stomach of chicken. He's also full of drugs because he OD'd. So they give the politician's cremated ashes a little taste test, which makes them see a starry night. Apparently, the politician was a founder of a Russian-American space telescope agency that was tasked with watching a specific planet from Antarctica. So they pack their bags and head to Santa's house. They get there to discover the scientists just jork off and party all the time. Apparently, the $34 million in funding that they were given by the politician was way more than they actually needed, and they just used the rest on party stuff and llamas for some reason. So that's why the politician overdosed. He partied too hardy. I'm assuming he also ate chicken there while he was there, but they never say that. They just kind of show up. While Tony and Savoy are piecing all this together, suddenly a bomb goes off, and one of the Russian girls starts shooting at Tony and Savoy. She starts yapping about some vampire guy, and that her boss told her that Savoy is bad news. The other Russian that was working with her blows himself up, and she runs off into the snow, and she's only wearing her underwear. Well, she's dead. This definitely won't come back around somehow in the future. Oh yeah, and the planet the scientists were tasked with watching blows up when no one's looking. In the next mission, the FDA has tasked them with taking down some mafia that has a bunch of illegal chicken. The SWAT team goes in first and wipes them all out, and Tony and Savoy come in afterwards. They go into the vault filled with chicken and end up finding Tony's brother, Chu, tied up and beaten up. Chow is a washed-up chef that used to be on live television, but he had a little rant one day about the chicken conspiracy that lost him his job. Ever since then, he's been buying black market chicken. While they're tying everything up, one of the mafia guys comes out of nowhere and smacks Tony in the face. They must have missed him. He was hiding in the vault. He's about to kill Tony, but Savoy rushes in and gives him a lobotomy. Savoy also gets shot in the arm, but at least everyone's safe. But my boy Tony's face gets blasted with that guy's blood. He gets a reading from the blood and finds out that that was the man that chopped off Evan Pepper's finger. Tony goes to bed that night, ready to write a report in the morning, but he can't sleep. He's had a revelation. Savoy killed Pepper. You see, when Tony's face was blasted with that guy's blood, a little bit of Savoy's blood was put into the mix as well. That's why Tony was able to find out that Savoy killed Pepper. Turns out Savoy is also a chicken bird flu conspiracist. Evan Pepper was suspected to know information about the bird flu, so the Yakuza was torturing him for that information. So Pepper went to Savoy for help, but Savoy ended up killing him and eating him. You know, so he can get his memories and tell if he really did know something. But turns out, he didn't know anything, and he just killed him for no reason. Tony and Savoy duke it out, and Savoy rips Tony's ear off. He tells Tony not to follow him, or he will eat his ear and find out everything about him. His parents, his siblings, his whole family won't be safe. So after that, Tony's stuck working alone with no partner. Psych! John Colby is back, and now he has a Terminator face. He gets hired by the FDA, and they're back to being partners, just like the good old days. Man, that guy really hates you. I told ya. He's gay, you know. Appleby. All those repressed homosexual urges got him filled with rage. Ugh, this again? You think everyone's gay. Everyone is gay, Tony. Their first mission, back together, is finding out who robbed Citizens Savings Bank. The robbers were kind enough to leave them a goodbye present. Yeah, there's no way Tony's eating that. Man, Appleby just sucks. So John tricks Appleby into giving them the rest of the day to finish the case. They're going at it old school. No fancy tasting powers this time. So they look up the records on all the employees of the bank, find a guy who knows a guy from the bank, has a criminal record, and boom bada bing, got him. Oh, and looks like they caught him cooking chicken soup too. This isn't chicken. I think it's a fruit. With this new discovery, Tony takes a short vacation with his brother to a little touristy island. Chow got a new cooking show gig, and Tony decided to tag along to try and discover the origins of the strange chicken fruit he tasted. When they get there, they split up. Chow goes to his thing, and Tony gets discovered by some secret agent from the United States Department of Agriculture. She finds out he's working for the FDA and thinks he's trying to butt into her case, even though the FDA doesn't even know he's there. So she sabotages him in the elevator, and oh my god, when they talk about men writing women unrealistically, this is what they meant. Yeah? He explains to her that he's got nothing to do with her case and is only looking for the chicken thing. They both plan to meet in an hour at the hotel bar so they can exchange information. But while Tony's waiting, she gets killed by some guy with vampire teeth. Wait a minute. Is this the guy the Russian lady was talking about in issue 4? The vampire? Tony gets framed for the agent lady's death since they were seen fighting in the elevator earlier that day. So he gets put in jail. Yeah, don't drop the soap. Oh, turns out the sheriff just got confirmation to let him out since he's FDA. But not until Tony beats the crap out of these other guys. He gets a taste of some of their blood and discovers they killed some kid that was somehow related to some famous cockfighting rooster, Pollo. Why does that sound?
Pollo. Chicken.
Oh, I get it. So they go to where the kid was buried, dig him up, take a bite out of him. Now they know where the kidnapped rooster is. They go to the place, take the rooster back, and oh, the sheriff guy tricks Tony and steals the rooster and leaves the country. Right when I think I'd know what's going on, this book sucker punches me in the temple. Back at home, Appleby is asking for Tony, and John is trying to keep him off his back. The FDA recently found the frozen body of the Russian girl from Antarctica. She has vampire teeth marks on her neck. Coincidentally, back where Tony is, in the island country's morgue, the agent lady that was killed earlier also has vampire teeth marks. And a bunch of other bodies do. Turns out this vampire guy is also psychopathic, and he's been killing and biting people to get information he needs, which means he's loose somewhere on the island. Well, this doesn't sound good, but at least the sheriff left a special chicken fruit for Tony in return for helping him get the rooster. Tony finally takes a big bite out of it and sees... what? Okay, so what's the deal with this chicken plant? Well, first off, you need to know who this guy is. This is the governor of the small island country. A couple years ago, the mysterious fruit started growing on the island, and when this fruit is cooked, it tastes exactly like chicken, and it's called galsaberry. I feel like there's a pun there, but I'm too lazy to figure out what it is. The governor took this as a chance to put his tiny little country on the map. He hired Tony's brother to cook with the fruit and broadcast it on television so the whole world can see what he has discovered. He also got Amelia Mitz to come over and write reviews on the food, and also some famous European chef named Phytoniros. Phytoniros can't speak, but he can communicate through his dishes. But the governor's basically evil because he's holding all these people against their will. Yeah, he's just trying to monopolize off the fact that this chicken fruit tastes like actual chicken, since, you know, there's the whole banned chicken thing. When Tony figures this all out, he goes in to rescue Amelia, Chow, and Phytoniros, all while there's a giant civil war going on because of Pollo the rooster. On another note, all the chicken plants are being torched. The second-hand man of that guy sitting in the office full of frogs ordered him to do so. Apparently, that guy is actually called Ray Jack Montero, who is a businessman making chicken alternatives and just doesn't want any competition. Okay, so let me piece this all together. This Montero guy, who is responsible for the Yakuza, is also responsible for burning down all these galsaberry things in an attempt to keep his brand of fake chicken on top of the food market, and he's also been keeping a close eye on Tony this whole time? Anyways, Tony rescues Chow and Amelia, but has to go back for Phytoniros. But it's too late. The vampire guy shows up and is taking Phytoniros with him instead. The governor lets this happen and ends up offing himself afterwards. Later, in the vampire lord's plane, Phytoniros is under the impression that he's been rescued by Mr. Sharpteeth, but instead, he was planning to absorb him, whatever that means. Also, this guy isn't a real vampire. He just chooses to look like one for some reason. The vampire was originally hired to rescue him, but apparently things fell through. And you're probably wondering how John was able to keep Appleby distracted long enough for Tony to do all this. Well... Anyways, they all get back home safe and sound. And the next day at work, Appleby is acting really nice to Tony for once. Maybe Colby was right. Tony calls up Amelia and asks her if she wants to go out on a date with him. Surprisingly, she says yes. And when we think this is all winding down, we see that Amelia has one of the chicken fruits in her garden. And that is the end of the first 2 books. I really like this series. It's really gritty. It has a really dark sense of humor that I like. The characters are funny, and there's a lot of good, gross fun. I definitely recommend looking into it. If you want me to read more of this series to unmask the mysterious plot, leave a comment. Otherwise, I just summarize comics. I hope you enjoyed. Bye!